Hi everyone, my name is Michael. I will be presenting Apero. In It's something that I actually have a pretty strong connection with. In the fall of 2015, I went on a foreign exchange trip. This was my sophomore year of high school, and I went to France. It was a really eye-opening experience for me to learn about not only the French cuisine and how that was different from ours, but the French lifestyle and the way that they ate. So in this presentation, I will be covering what exactly apéro is and what it can do for us and our culture. So a brief history of apéro. It was popularized in 1846. It came to be because there was this chemist and merchant who was trying to sell these concoctions of alcohol, herbs, and other like aromatics. It wasn't really doing really well because it didn't taste very good. So his wife actually started doing these presentations at their home that she would host. These kind of like pre-dinner parties, as you will, where they just kind of sat down, tried to market the beverages that he was selling, and really just kind of talked about life and stuff. By the end of the 19th century, neighboring countries kind of normalized their exposure to alcoholic concoctions, and people just kind of decided they liked it eventually. A few years later, these practices spread across Europe, and that's not just the drinking of these alcoholic concoctions, but the idea of hosting these pre dinner parties. So, what exactly is apéro? L'heure d'apéro translates to hour of apéro, which usually is how long it is. So again, like I mentioned, it is this kind of little cocktail party you have before dinner traditionally. Traditionally, there isn't a very big emphasis on food. Nowadays, it's more likely you're going to be eating with the spread of it going across different countries, people wanting to have different things when they have it. Also, moving away from the traditional French way of doing it, people are now hosting it really anywhere with people. That's kind of the modernity of apéro. It's not necessarily a cuisine or a specific beverage or food you're eating or drinking. It is kind of this idea of just sitting together with a group, could be anyone, and you just drink and or eat and just like relax. Take an hour before eating just to, process, reflect on your day, and just enjoy life. Enjoy eating. You can have the traditional apero, which is pate, which is that like little red minced meat thing, the cornichons, those little pickles, baguette, and rosé, like any wine. But that's kind of the traditional way. Nowadays, you can find goldfish and fruit juice at an apéro, especially in France. There's a big like commercialized way of doing it now. There's different beverages and foods for different groups. Age and location are big things that go into this. I mean, if you're a kid, you're not going to be drinking rosé and eating pate. You're going to be, having goldfish and fruit juice. Locations, I mean, France is I wouldn't say it's a big country, but it is very diverse in its culture. You have even just the way they speak. Here in the U.S. we have different dialects. It's also a thing in France, which is really fascinating. And with having different regions, there's different foods that are going to be traditionally or not traditionally eaten or drunk during apéro. This is just something I want to add here. It's a little fun little tidbit. I noticed when I was there, they have different brands of everything. Like Innocent is this like awesome juice brand there. It's interesting because it's not even French. It's actually an English brand, which is something really funny to me. But there's so much bleed over in Europe because the countries are so close together in branding. Here in the US, most of the things that we're familiar with are very, I don't want to say American because American is such a broad thing, but every town you go into is going to have like a McDonald's or something like that. In France, there's more of like a spread, a crossover of different cultures. Okay, so why would we do apéro in the U.S.? Um, Through the typical, lens of someone living here, we would think things like, how do you have time? How do you get everyone together, especially if you're like in a family. And shouldn't I be something more productive with my weekdays? But that's kind of the point. That's what we're missing. We're only able to be productive for so much of our day. And that's something that I think we need to keep in mind. Uh, you know, Especially now amidst COVID-19, there is a huge mental crisis happening. This is a meta-analysis I was looking at that basically shows the increase in screenings from 2014 to 2021. You can pause here and look at this, but it's like extremely, extremely significant. Groups that are higher at risk. I mean, our healthcare workers, people working in the ICU, NICU, they see horror stories all the time, and it really is a lot to deal with. Students, virtual learning. I mean, it's been difficult. That goes for elementary school to up till now, where we are now. Isolated adults, the geriatric and immunocompromised people. I mean, thank God we have a vaccine now and antiviral medications, but even for people who are, immunosuppressed or immunocompromised, it's still scary, It's still scary now for anyone to go out and do certain things that we would normally do before. All this has led to, like a great increase in depression, anxiety, and eventually burnout. We're just tired of the way that things are, with good reason. I mean, even apart from that, the typical 9 to 5 workday in the US, even before COVID, is not great. It's not very fun. It's not very conducive to a happy life. We get up at 6 a.m. and like to 8, we're doing our morning routine. If we have kids and a family, we get them all ready, which is a whole thing. 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. commute, likely car, because, in the US, we drive a lot. We don't get a lot of exercise. Here in the city, we probably take a train or walk is a little better. But I guess that's a presentation in of itself. 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. our typical workday. Again, this looks very different because especially in the US, there's so many different disenfranchised groups that have to work 2 jobs or do all different kinds of things like bending backwards to try to put food on the table. And this is like, the best kind of scenario, the typical 9 to 5, which is really crappy. But even when you have just that, you are likely only to have like a short break for lunch, even if you get that. I mean, I work a part-time job, and I don't really get a break. I just kind of scarf down food in between customers. That's kind of what you do because we live in this hustle culture. Then from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., your commute back, again, likely car. 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., dinner, when you get to that eventually. And then 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. is me time, which, when you are an adult or have a family, that is never me time. That's doing the dishes, that's doing laundry, that's grocery shopping, that is all these different things that we have to get done. And then 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. is your night routine. You get ready to do the whole thing the next day. So obviously, we have systematic issues here in the US. We live in a hustle culture where your worth is your productivity. We don't really live in a person-first society. We are expected to work long days and do that again the next day. And it's not really conducive. That's where you see the biggest difference in French and the US culture is that, you're more likely to have paid maternity and paternity leave in actually a lot of European countries, but we'll talk about France here. You are going to be able to have better access to health insurance. You're going to be able to have more vacations. Here in the US, we don't really get a lot of that. And if you do, you are very, very lucky. So we have a big issue. So what can, sitting together and eating and drinking actually do for us? First of all, it opens the door for discussion on a more person-minded society. I don't think we're having enough conversations about this. Like, what is it we're prioritizing, And not just as like an individual, but as a society. I think it's very important to talk about. And just for, these last things are just for Apero, but, get time to grow and maintain relationships. I am a full-time student and I work part-time, and it is extremely difficult to hang out with people. I mean, even just for my own schedule, it's hard to find time, but you have to coordinate that with other people. That's extremely difficult. And I don't even have a family. I'm just taking care of myself, and I can barely do that. You increase connectivity with family by doing this too, both chosen and not. I mean, in the city, we interact with people so much on a daily basis, but very rarely are those interactions on an interpersonal level. We have so much exposure, but not a lot of connection. And I think these things could really lead to more fulfillment and less burnout, which is again something that we are really struggling with right now in the U.S. So, how could something I want to leave you guys with is kind of an open discussion thing because we don't really get to talk like together. It's just more of a discussion post thing. But I want to ask you, how could you fit Apero in your schedule? You know, um, and if not, what steps do you think as a society we need to think about to make this more accessible? Whether that be financial, whether that be time, whether just being having the energy to do this. This is something that we could talk about for hours, and so having just 10 minutes is a little hard. But I want to leave that with you guys. I hope you have a great summer and stay safe. Thank you. Bye.